That's an interesting question. How would you answer that?
Well, I would want to be empowered.
Okay.
I mean, ideally, I would go with Ayurveda, who says that as soon as you get up in the morning, go outside and feel the day, feel what the day is like, say hello to the day.
Okay.
And that puts you immediately in touch with natural law. Because remember, TM is about natural law. It's nature's organizing power that's working for you. And nature never makes a mistake.
Right.
So you dive into that unified field of all the laws of nature, which is like the sap in a tree. It's unseen, but the tree wouldn't exist without it.
Yeah.
So we're diving into that state of least excitation of the mind, which is the perfect state of the mind. And we are in touch with all the laws of nature at that point. So before I do that, most TM teachers, I think, probably do this anyway. They would go outside and get in touch with the day. The reason why I asked you the question was we've in that issue, which is at the back of every TM teacher's mind, is how am I going to get the correct reward for this, as well as feeling like I'm giving something that's going to make a difference to the community, to the society, to the individual.
Okay. Okay, that's an interesting one. So in other words, you're telling me that you don't feel that your organization values you enough and what you do as a TM teacher, i.e. therefore not rewarding you enough for your efforts?
No, I've not got any issue with the TM movement. They are doing what they can to fulfill the protocol of a charity and run the organization and have a backup system that helps the TM teachers, etc. And we're doing everything we can in an environment which is not as flush as that top level in America, top level in France, where money isn't an object. So we're having to transcend and we're having to sort of scan the whole spectrum of incomes. So that's what we're trying to do, not leave anybody out.
Yeah, but you're obviously not marketing at the higher income classes, otherwise they would be knocking on your door. So something in your marketing needs to change to attract these higher income classes that might not even know about TM.
Yes, and my feeling is on that is that we should take out the over emphasis on sickness and anxiety and stress, although stress is part of a businessman's life, but the anxiety thing, I think we should reduce that word in our advertising. But again, that's something that you and I could talk about, and you can make some suggestions that if this video does go out on the Governor's Net, I can put some underlying questions that you've actually answered, or how you might be able to help each individual. I have one more question for you on that. Would you, if supposing the TM movement said, okay, you've worked this well with Will, now I want you to do a random study with another 5 teachers. Would you do it just on a formula, or would you take into consideration the individual as well? Because remember, what you're doing, if I get you into this situation where you can have a dialogue with the heads of the TM movement, where you can teach the TM movement and help to change their fortunes, if you like, to attract more abundance and the right people, the more people that how would that work? I mean, you've got to then do the same as I have to do and treat each individually different. Or would you have a plan that would scan and take in those considerations? You know, do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I think, you know, there are different options. There are different options that we could run a case study on you and see how we can improve your fortunes and your marketing to see that we can attract the high income people that are happy to pay £2,000 for the training. And how can we then roll that out to the rest of the UK? And so there's the opportunity to use something that is a group coaching. So we would get all the TM teachers together and coach them together what they need to do to get to that income level. And if that is not attractive, then there's also the chance that we could use the community of action coaches across the UK to say, you know, how many people are living in your patch and would you be able to coach them?
Okay. How many in the UK action coaches are
We
there?
have about 200 at the moment
In the UK?
in the UK alone. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant in throughout Europe.
No, just in the UK.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, great.
So there's a way that we could roll that out as well. It all depends on you know how deep you want to go with that, what kind of results you want, and is that something that the foundation wants?
I think the bottom line is what happens with me, really. What happens to Portsmouth and what happens to the Isle of Wight. I mean, I could ask you one question. Do you think I should be the TM teacher for Portsmouth that actually also includes the Isle of Wight, or the Isle of Wight TM teacher that includes Portsmouth?
Well, how is it working for you at the moment?
I tend to favour the Portsmouth angle.
Okay.
Yeah, I do it sort of Isle of Wight and Portsmouth TM. I think that's my centre name, is Portsmouth Isle of Wight TM Centre.
Okay. And where do you get more students?
Portsmouth.
Okay, so then you just given yourself the answer, right?
Yeah, but I live here.
I know. Well, you know, I live on Hayling Island, and I coach businesses in Portsmouth and in Southampton.
Right, but you're a wizard on the techno side.
Well, that's a challenge that you can overcome.
Yeah, I am doing so. I think. How do you think this interview is going compared to the others?
Yeah, it's going great. It's going great. You know, you're using technology, and obviously it's working.
Right. Okay.
So just before we move on from number 9, from what the first thing that a TM teacher should say to us.
Oh yes, yeah. Give me your thing on that. Your take on that.
Well, if we would look at it from a more business perspective of how we need to create a living, what would be a natural saying for a teacher that wakes up in the morning and wants to be abundant and wants to have as many students as possible? So they
action. That's one word. Action.
Action. So they would say to themselves what every morning?
I've got to meditate first because that's the most sublime action.
Yeah.
And then I'll plunge into dynamic activity in the field.
Well, there you go. Brilliant. Great.
Oh, but I asked you though. You sidestepped that.
Well, that's a great answer. Put it that way.
Okay. All right.
So I understand that there was a study in the 70s whereby TM teachers throughout the world went into major cities, and they went into areas that were riddled with crime and problems, and they then engaged in group meditation, and they had a massive effect after a few weeks, whereby the crime rate dropped down to 87%, and for all crimes, and 77%, went down from 100 to 77% for violent crimes.
Yeah, that's right. And then we did a study after that in Washington, which was by invitation of the Washington government.
Yeah.
Did you know about that one?
Yes, you talked about that one.
Yeah, so, and that is monitored by the FBI, etc. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a brilliant. I mean, there is no denial that this is absolutely brilliant.
Right. So how would that leads us on, right, to the last question. So I'm joining those two things together. The Maharishi Effect will create world peace.
Yeah.
Now, how many people are coming with that principle in their mind? Is there some financial thing that we're missing here, where people can contribute to that, or where they can, they have enough awareness to know that we don't want to poison our world. We don't want the wars. We don't want the conflict. We want to have conflict resolution. We want to actually avoid giving birth to an enemy.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about the John Lennon ideal, right? And,
what was that?
His Imagine. The song.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So here's the thing. the United States spends every day $2 billion to keep the war machine up, yeah?
Mm,
To keep the troops all over deployed all over the world. And it's this is a lot of money.
right.
And so this is money that is spent on keeping the world at peace, or trying to keep the world at peace. Because as we know, it is not a very peaceful place. Now, if just this money, if just the money that the US spends every single day on their war machine be spent on people, to help people that are living in conditions that are so bad and so horrendous that they have to survive every single day, then that money would be available, because they wouldn't have to spend it on the war machine if we would use this, this world peace.
Maharishi Effect. Yeah, we ended the war in Peru and with
exactly.
Ecuador. Yeah.
Here's a real big question: is, but how many people know about the benefits of TM? How good has this been?
Well, that's a good question.
The word. How many
Brilliant.
people? I didn't know about that until I looked into TM. I never heard about TM. I never heard about the benefits of TM. I never heard about the Maharishi effect. This is only now, because for the last 6-7 months, I've been looking into it and learning more and more and more about it.
Mm.
But unless my client would have talked to me about it, it would have never revealed itself to me unless I start researching it. And how? Right. So how can you make this? How can you make this? How can you increase your public relations, your messaging that goes out there for people to actually learn and know about TM and the benefits of it? So we could at one stage have the Maharishi effect.
This is brilliant, Andreas. This is brilliant. I mean, what's coming out of this talk with us now, you and I, is a whole new paradigm. Mm-hmm. And I'm almost tempted to say, for the people watching it at the governor's net, to go straight to questions 8, 9, and 10 and 11. Well, but yeah. So, but no, that is brilliant, because I think the world is changing now, isn't it? With this COVID-19,
yes,
there's a realization in people now. They are finding their center just by accident, in a way, and we want more of that. And there's a more community spirit, etc., that's coming about. So it might be the ripe time. When I say ripe, I mean right and ripe. Yeah. With a P. But so that is brilliantly phrased, and
in one way, you have something that can literally change the world, but mm-hmm. you are the best kept secret.
Right.
And how can you change that? How can you become known throughout the whole world?
Well, as you say, the information is out there on the Maharishi effect. It's demonstrated all over the world, and this may be the time. We've had Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
We've had COVID-19.
Yeah.
And now we've got Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and Will Treend. And TM movement.
There you go. And so are you happy to take the baton and tell the world how great this actually is and how you can help?
I was being a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I said Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and Will Treend. I wouldn't put myself in the same breath as Maharishi, but for local convenience, yes, that I'm their connection with this precious knowledge. Yeah, for sure.
Or anything else that you want to know?
No, I think this is very rich what we've done there. I think there's a richness there that has we've opened up a few very potent questions, and I think that whole last thing, it hinges on that last one. Actually, it's all built up. If you think about how the interview has gone, I found out more about you, stuff I didn't know, and very useful things for anybody that wants to use your services. You found out more about TM and about the world effects it has, the global effect it has, the Maharishi effect, and ethos of world peace. The reason I put world peace in that question 11 is that there isn't, I don't think, any major company now in the world that doesn't have that as part of their mission statement.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
that's interesting.
so there was something financially in my head leading
Yeah,
leading to that.
yeah, yeah.
But
That's
yeah, so well, thank you very much for that, Andreas. I think it's good to leave it perhaps there, maybe wanting a bit more. I can't actually think of anything
well.
apart from a
The
few
only
of
thing.
Maharishi's quotes. I can give you
Yeah,
3 Maharishi quotes if you like to go
well,
home
you
with.
can. Can I say one more thing? I think
Yes, yes,
me as an individual, I don't have all the answers. I can
right,
certainly help you with certain aspects of it. But
right.
what I do know is, as a group of action coaches, UK wide and global,
Uh-huh.
we could certainly help the movement to become what it wants to be, as long as they are happy to reach out and want to work with us on that scale.
Okay, well that is interesting because it's one group of peace workers talking to another group of peace workers who are also both sets of people want to be rewarded.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
and deserve to be rewarded. Yeah, so I think that's a very good way to end.
mm, absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, what about these 3 quotes? And you still want to throw them in, or
Oh yes,
you want to
yes.
end it on that?
Okay, the first one is the
Okay.
Sanskrit. It's called it's Yogasta Kuru Kamani,
Mhm.
which means established in being, perform action. That means go to that place in you where, in your mind, where there is perfect order, that state of least excitation,
Yeah.
and act from there.
Yeah.
So we go to that place, Yogasta Kuru Kamani, established in being, that place of stillness, of least excitation, of perfect orderliness,
Yeah.
and we come out into activity, the activity will have that orderliness. We've created the orderliness by the diving into the transcendent. We're using that orderliness by plunging into dynamic activity.
Okay.
All right. The other quote is absolutely everything can be fixed. Absolutely everything is fixed. And absolutely everything can be changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The key word there is the absolute. Absolute is that non-unmanifest value of creation. It's the transcendent. It's what you dive into or close to whenever you take that dive to using TM.
Yeah.
And when you take that dive using TM, it's in the direction of that absolute value, that state of perfect stillness and silence, which is, they call it the vacuum state. But even in the vacuum state, there's half a photon of, half a virtual photon of light.
Yeah.
So, and even in that stillness, there is a dynamic stillness there. There's a dynamic silence. It's not a dead silence. So we dive into that and we rejuvenate it. Everything is rejuvenated
Mm-hmm.
and electrified. And we come out there of that really wanting to do the best for ourselves, most evolutionary action, and to communicate our love and friendliness to the world and anybody we meet. The last question would be, the last quote is, resist the temptation to chase your dreams into the world. Pursue them into the heart and leave them there. And they will actually sprout, like a seed will sprout,
Okay.
but
All right.
naturally, effortlessly. In other
Well,
words, no straining. Straining is inelegant.
yeah.
Our activity. Look at Muhammad Ali, how
Yeah.
elegant he was.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, there are your 3 quotes.
Excellent. Okay. Excellent.
Absolutely everything is fixed. Absolutely everything can be changed. Yogasta Guru Kamani, established in being your true self, that state of least excitation, that state of perfect orderliness. And from there, we go out into the world, perform action.
Well, yeah. So thanks for everything. Or you
Thank
need
you,
to.
Andreas. No,
Well,
thank you.
yeah. Yeah. You need
I,
to
I,
finish that. You
I
finish it.
should, shouldn't I? I should say something, yes. And it's been an absolute pleasure to interview you. And this it just goes to prove, doesn't it, that everything is related. You can't take any one piece out of creation without the rest of creation coming alongside, along with it. Everything is connected at that sub nuclear level. We are literally all one. And that's from Professor John Hagelin, who's the leader of the TM movement. He's a quantum physicist in the United States. But it's Maharishi been saying that for, it's part of the Veda, but he just put it into the language of science. So yes, I think I love what you do. Whenever I get a chance, I've just in the last few days, I've recommended you. Whether they come to you or not, I don't know. But I know that you obviously, if it's applicable, you actually recommend TM as well to me.
I do.
People to me. Yeah. And worldwide, of course, nationwide. I didn't realize that you had so many action coaches in the UK.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's a great community. So,
so what would your one-liner be to end? I've given you a Maharishi quote. Give me a Bert Sugar. No, what's his name? Brad Sugars. What does he say?
Well, I can tell you about our purpose. Our purpose is to get a coach into every business, because we believe that every business is better off with a business coach on their side. Just because we can look from the outside with fresh eyes into what's working and what's not working. And because we have that ability and we come in with a fresh approach, you'd be amazed how many things will suddenly change and improve.
Okay, just on that point, I was going to ask you one more question, actually, which is what is your greatest win?
My greatest win?
Yeah, since you've been an action coach.
Well, you have monetary wins. So I can tell you that I improved, businesses' revenue or businesses' profit. And there are emotional wins whereby you help change people's lives for the better. So there are numerous, and it depends what you're looking for. Is it commercial or is it emotional? That's a distinction you have to make. And I mean, I've got loads of testimonials on my website, and just have a look and see what they say. They are so diversified and so different. There's something in that for everybody. And
no, I'm just really asking you, what gave you the most satisfaction?
The most satisfaction was actually a side effect of when I was coaching a cafe owner who was a holistic healer, who then turned herself into a cafe owner after the money she got from an inheritance. And she started it having no idea about hospitality and run this business. And she was at a really bad point in her life where she was losing a lot of money every day on the business. And when we started coaching, we worked on mindset, we worked on the business, we worked on strategy, we worked on advertising, on all these things that we talked about earlier. And we did turn the business around. And after a year, I spoke to her partner. He came up to me and I thought, maybe he's not happy with what we have done. But what he actually said is, you more or less helped us save our relationship. Because before that, we were arguing every single day. Everybody was stressed and everybody was annoyed. And we were trying to find reasons to shout at each other and pick at each other because we were just losing this money. And it was putting such a big strain on us that the whole relationship became really poisoned. And because of what has happened, that the business is now making money, and we no longer drain money and lose money, our relationship has turned around and we're now happy again.
That's fantastic. And she puts that down to you, to your input.
Well, she puts it down to what we've done with the business and the coaching. So,
well, that's you.
Yeah, if you want to say so. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm asked. It was a personal question.
Yeah.
It was like, what has given you the most satisfaction? That's beautiful.
So no matter what I did in my life before, I've never had anybody say that I've saved their relationship.
That's lovely, Andreas. That's lovely.
So that was a massive payback for me. So it's not always financial. I can tell you that we've improved and doubled profits and business turnover, but that's not, that's good. but that on an emotional level was the biggest payback for me personally, to save somebody's relationship and so therefore bring back happiness into their life. That was a great payback for me.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Well done, Andreas. Yeah.
Thank you. So
And anyway, to everybody out there who looks at this, if it goes on to Facebook or if it goes to the Governor's Net, we'll just have to, I always have to sign off with saying Jai Gurudev, which means sunshine and enlightenment to Gurudev. That's Maharishi's master. So every TM teacher tends to use that little phrase, some charming little phrase, but meant from our heart. It's very heartfelt. And thank you for that, our time together, Andreas.
it was a pleasure, absolute pleasure to have this little chat with you, Will. So yeah, I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye. Bye. Jai Gurudev.